two things that the direction of acceleration depend on. Number one, is acceleration a vector or scalar? It is a vector. There is direction, magnitude and direction. Two things. Direction depends on, number one, the way the object is traveling, which way the object is going, and secondly, if the object is slowing down or speeding up. So in general, the principle for determining direction of acceleration is if an object is speeding up, then the sign of acceleration is the same as the direction as the velocity. And if the object is slowing down, then the sign of acceleration is the opposite of the sign of velocity. So those two things, that's the rule. So example of that would be what would have to be true for an object to have a positive acceleration. One way to do it, the most obvious way, most people are good with this, is it could be speeding up while moving in the positive direction. So you're speeding up and have a positive velocity. So you'd have the same sign, you'd have a positive acceleration. The other way that is not quite so intuitive is it could be slowing down while moving in the negative direction. So you're slowing down while moving in the negative direction, so you have a negative velocity. So if you're slowing down, the sign of acceleration is opposite of velocity, so you'd have a positive acceleration, both of which would be a positive acceleration. So the flip side of that would be what would have to happen for you to have a negative acceleration. The first way most people are good with is if you're slowing down while moving in the positive direction. Most people are good with that. So you're slowing down while moving in the positive direction, so you have a positive velocity. Therefore, you have a negative acceleration because the acceleration is in the opposite direction of velocity if you're slowing down. Or the other way you could have a positive acceleration is if you're speeding up while moving in the negative direction. So you're speeding up, moving in the negative direction. If you're speeding up, then the sign of acceleration is the same as velocity. So you have a negative acceleration. So that is one way to determine the direction of acceleration. Coming next is looking at forces, and it's a little more intuitive. So the Newton's first law of motion, you might remember this from junior high physical science. An object at rest will remain at rest, or an object in motion will remain in motion with a constant velocity if the net force acting on the object is equal to zero. Or another way to say it, if there's no unbalanced forces acting on it. So how will an object continue to move if all forces were taken away from it? It would continue to move at a constant speed in a straight line path. In other words, having constant velocity. That's kind of a weird thing, but that's how inertia works. If something's moving, it's going to continue to move forever and ever at a constant speed. So what would happen to an object's motion if the unbalanced force did act on it? Well, it would change. The velocity would change. Specifically, it would experience an acceleration. And so this ties into direction of acceleration. So the direction of acceleration would be in the same direction as the force acting on it. Later we'll talk about this, but like the total force is equal to mass times acceleration. The direction of acceleration will always be in the same direction as the net force